everybody, welcome back to my channel, Made with Love. My name is Heather. I just want to say, first of all, I am so impressed and I just can't believe it, but yesterday I actually hit 1,000 subscribers and noticed a few people over that 1,000. I honestly thought that would not going to happen as fast as it did. It took just a little over 1 year to do that. Just have to say, in the last 2 months, just how fast the numbers went up. I just couldn't believe it. But today I'm here in my kitchen and I'm going to be making gingerbread house from scratch. I'm just going to pause for a second to move my camera down. Okay, so I'm in my kitchen, so the camera is like on the other side of my island, so I can't quite reach it. But I bought this a couple of years ago from a secondhand store. I have not used it yet, but it's the gingerbread house cookie cutter set. It even came with the instructions and the recipe. So this is the recipe I'm going to be using. And then the cookie cutters shapes comes with 10 pieces. We have the sides for your front and back of the house. And we have the actual two guys, I don't know. And then this would be like for your door for the other two sides of the house. And the roof piece. And then there's the chimney piece. There's a tree. And there's also the window cutouts. If you want to do square windows or the more rounded looking windows. I'm just going to set cookie cutters to the side. So somebody must just be walking past my gate. So for this recipe, so I'm just going to put my glasses back on because I can't read this. They got it in such small print. For the dough, you will need 5 cups of flour, 1 cup of sugar, 3 teaspoons of powdered ginger, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of your white vegetable shortening, and 1 cup of unsulfured molasses. Now that was the one I didn't know. I only know there's one kind of molasses. So I did look at that unsulfured molasses and it just says it's just your regular fancy molasses. So we will be making this recipe. Okay. I'm just reading because it says what you have to do. Okay, it looks like we have to melt the shortening in a saucepan. So I guess I'll be flipping I didn't see that part. I just didn't even read how to actually make the recipe yet, but I guess I'll be pausing and flipping around because I guess I'll have to do that at the stove. Okay, so just to make this, I've never actually made a gingerbread house or piece. Well, I have, but not with this recipe. So it says I have to melt the shortening in a saucepan. Now I've got my Crisco shortening here. I know I've already used 1/3 of a cup before, so I'm just going to take this out and cut this in half because every block of Crisco shortening you actually get 2 cups and 1/3. So I'm just going to cut this in half, and that will give me my 1 cup. So line this up. So right there is my 1 cup. This into the saucepan and get that melted. Also hope if I had my burner turned on. Other side. And I've got vegetable shortening all over my fingers. Okay, so get this melted. And then it says to this we have to add 1 cup of sugar and 1 cup of the molasses. So I'm going to measure out my 1 cup of sugar. It's just easier if I just pour it in. And 1 cup of molasses. This is the harder part, to pour out. Okay, so while I'm pouring out the molasses to get to the 1 cup, and I'm waiting for the Crisco to melt, and then when the Crisco's melted, I add the sugar and the molasses to it, and then I wait till the sugar is fully dissolved. Then I go to the next part. So when I get my molasses measured out, it's taking a long time to pour out, and I'm waiting for the Crisco to melt. So I'll be back when I'm ready with the next spot. Okay, so I've got the Crisco is now melted. I'm just going to turn the heat down a little. I don't think it says what temperature to have it on. Just have to make sure that the sugar and molasses gets mixed well and the sugar is fully dissolved. So I'm going to add the sugar. Oops. When you spill sugar on a cooktop like this, don't blow the sugar because it's going to burn. Now my house is going to smell like burned sugar for a bit. I couldn't get that the other box of the molasses to pour, so I just opened a second box. Don't want this to burn. I don't want my sugar to burn, but I need it to melt. Stirring it, and I'm going to add my molasses to this now too. See, I have never made this before. Don't know what it's supposed to do. May have to get a larger pot. I have never melted molasses and sugar and vegetable shortening in the same pot before. I have made gingerbread cookies before, but I usually use this other recipe. It's actually a really fast one. It's like an easy one with just a few basic ingredients, and the main ingredient in it is actually not working. The main ingredient in that one is actually butterscotch pudding. So it's for a really easy recipe. This molasses is just stuck in the bottom of this. And the heat is just making the molasses just kind of melt, and you get these like little web things here. So I think that's enough molasses. I can get out of here. So it's back on the heat. Actually, I've got the stove turned off. I'm just going to keep stirring until the sugar is melted. It shouldn't take that long. Is it? Let's see. And it says, yeah, make sure the sugar is fully dissolved. This is going to take a bit to get the sugar to dissolve. I'm waiting for the sugar to dissolve. I guess the next step is, the next step will be to sift my flour, baking soda, nutmeg, salt, and ginger together in another bowl. I will need a larger pot because then I got to put the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. I'm just going to grab a larger pot now. Stirring until this is fully dissolved, so I will be back as soon as the sugar is fully dissolved. Okay, my sugar is now fully dissolved, so now I'm over here. I'm just going to turn the sifter on. And it says I need to do 5 cups of flour, so I've already pre-measured out 5 cups of flour, so I'm just going to slowly add this in. And the mixer on. Mixer, and I have this part attachment for it, and it's a scale and a sifter in one. It's really handy, especially for recipes. Like I found like a lot of UK recipes, instead of saying like how many cups, they'll ask for like how many grams or other measurements for the product. So with this, I don't have to worry about trying to figure out how to convert. It's got the little sliding chute, just making sure that it's lined up. I've only used it a couple times, and I know the last time I used it, I didn't have it hooked up quite right. Sit for a few minutes. Now to this, I'm also supposed to add the baking soda and salt, so I need 1 teaspoon of each. Grab my 1 teaspoon of salt. One thing I like to do is I always like to get the sifting thing. I like to put the salt and the baking powder in with my flour with the sifter, whether I'm using this or my hand sifter. This kind of really helps to get everything mixed together. Now for this recipe, it asks for 3 teaspoons of your ginger and 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. But it's Christmas and I have other spices that I love to always add. So I've got cinnamon, allspice, cloves, and mace. Then I also have this one here. This just says mixed spices. So this is my blend of these spices without the mace. So I'm not quite sure make my little spice mix. I don't remember how many. I think I put 3 teaspoons of each of these into the little Ziploc bag. I'm not going to use that mix. I'm going to use these. So moving the wrong things the wrong way. So it says I need just 3 teaspoons of your ginger. More flour to be added as well. Last cup of flour. I've added the ginger, and it says 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. So I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. But I'm also going to add half a teaspoon of my other spices that I have here. So half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of allspice, which is probably what I've spilt all over my counter, and half a teaspoon of clove, and I'm also going to add half a teaspoon of the mace. Now add the spices that you like. I mean, certain spices that I really like the combination of. looks like it is. Got everything all sifted in here now. Turn this off. Just turn that off. I'm just going to take this off. I'm just going to take this off as well. It says the next step was to add the dry to the wet, so I'm just going to be moving the camera back around to the stove, so I'll be right back. Where did I put the little... Okay, so in my opinion, I think you should sift the stuff and then mix these things, because it kind of got a few lumps when I walked away to sift everything. So it might be a little lumpy. I'm just going to see if I just can get some of these to melt down a bit. I walked away and it all went hard. Okay, it says now you're supposed to add 4 cups of the sifted to this and mix it in. I'm just going to spill everything. There's 2, 3, mix those ones in. So it says, next you gradually stir in the 4 cups of the dry ingredients into your melted shortening mixture. Mix thoroughly. You save 1 cup aside. Save 1 cup of the flour mixture to the side. Let you get all this mixed in. And you'll add the remaining in a few minutes. Gotta get all this mixed in. Adding the flour, I don't think you can tell there was a few hard chunks. I did take some of the harder pieces out because I thought maybe I may have slightly burned my sugar when it first hit the melted shortening. So I'm supposed to keep 1 cup aside. I'm just gonna move the 1 cup over there because I'm just gonna keep adding all this in here. I'm just gonna continue stirring until this is all fully mixed together. When I get this all mixed together, I'll be back for the next step. Okay, so it says for the final part of this dough is to pour it out onto your rolling mat, like your counter or cutting board or whatever you're going to rolling it out on. I don't know about this recipe. I did something wrong, but it doesn't quite seem right. But you know, as I work with my hands, I might be able to get it to shape into a ball, because that's what you're supposed to do. Add the remaining cup of flour and roll it into a ball. So I'm just going to start working with this before I add the final cup. I just want to get some of this stuff that was at the bottom that I didn't get a chance to mix through. Just want to get this to start sticking together. It says you're supposed to make 3 equal sized balls of dough. Just want to kind of work with this because I still have my 1 more cup of flour I'm supposed to add. Just going to keep working with this. See if I can get all this to go together. If not, I think maybe, I don't know, 'cause it says 5 cups of flour, so I don't know if that amount is too much or if I just did something wrong. I'm able to get this to kind of go into a ball, but I've got lots of this floury stuff that just does not want to stick. I'm just going to keep working with this, so all I'm going to do is just go in small little balls and just kind of work with the dough. It doesn't say anything that there's any way you can over work with this. I know with some stuff, like pies and stuff, you can't overdo the dough or else it'll become hard. I'm just wondering if this is something different, if it can become too hard, but it's a gingerbread house, so you kind of want a stiffer cookie anyways. So I'm just going to keep grabbing little balls here. I'm just going to keep trying to form them into, just going to keep working with these and trying to get them to stick together. So that's all I'm going to be doing, is just trying to get 3 nice even balls the best I can out of this dough. And then I think it says the next step is you divide the dough after it's 1 cup. Yeah, so you mix the remaining 1 cup of dry ingredient by hand. After it is roughly mixed, divide the dough into 3 equal parts and shape each part into a ball. And then we're almost ready to actually start cutting it out into the shapes of what we will need. So I'm just going to keep working with this, and then I'll be back when I get all this all mixed together. Okay, so I thought maybe my dough was just a little too dry, so I did add a little bit of water just to get all this mixed together. May have been the way that when I did the molasses and I had sugar to the, this was when I had the sugar to the Crisco, how it kind of hardened. So I've got my 3 balls of dough here. Now it doesn't say to, but I'm going to wrap these up in saran wrap, and I'm going to put them in the fridge. Sorry, I don't know what happened, it just kind of stopped. So I said I rolled these out. The dough seemed a little dry, so I added a little bit of water, so like a teaspoon or so at a time. I think I probably used maybe 2-3 tablespoons of water, probably about that. So it doesn't say to do this, but I'm just going to wrap each one of these in cling wrap, and I'm going to put them in the fridge. I always find, like, even if a recipe doesn't say to do that, when you're doing rolled out cookies, I like to do that just to get the dough a little more hard. Just kind of really helps to keep the dough, especially when you're having trouble rolling it into the ball. This actually really makes it a lot easier to roll out. So that's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll these in saran wrap, and I'm going to stick them in my fridge probably for about 20-30 minutes until I know they're hard, and then I'll bring each one out one at a time and cut out, because it says each one. I had each one of these balls of dough, you have to cut certain parts of the gingerbread house pieces out of it. So I'm just going to put these in the fridge, and I will be back as soon as ready for the next step. Okay, so I've got that in the fridge for just a few more minutes, but while I was doing the dishes, I found a problem I made with the recipe. When I had used the 1 cup measure for the sugar, and then I was waiting for all that to dissolve and everything, I decided I would start measuring out my 5 cups of flour. Well, I guess instead of using the 1/2 cup, I used the 3/4 cup. So the reason my dough is not sticking together is instead of using 5 cups of flour, I've used 7.5 cups of flour. So it means I've made 1.5 times a recipe. So I'm going to have to make another 1/2 cup of my Crisco, 1/2 cup of sugar, and 1/2 cup of the molasses. and then mix all that back together. So I will make the other, my molasses Crisco syrup, and I'll add my dough back to that. And when I get that done, then we'll be back and start rolling everything out. All right, so now I've got my half a cup of Crisco melted. I'm gonna add my half a cup of molasses. And half a cup of sugar. Get the molasses out of this container. I only bake with molasses maybe once a year. Some years I've gone like a couple of years without using molasses, so it's not something I work with all the time. If anybody knows easier ways to get molasses to come out of the container or out of your measuring cup, that would be really appreciated, because I kind of feel like an idiot or something, you know, not being able to get to come, you know, molasses to come out of the box and then getting it to come out of the measuring cup. Okay, so I've got my Crisco and my molasses. Now I'm going to keep stirring. I'm going to add my sugar, and I'm going to try not to let it burn this time. I think if I just slowly sprinkle it in, instead of just dumping it all in, and I did the molasses first, I think that actually really kind of helped. Now I've got my sugar and Crisco and molasses all stirred. Just going to give this a minute here. Make sure it's all stirred in well. And now I'm going to add in the dough and see if that was the reason why my dough didn't feel quite right. When I took out a cup, after I added 4 cups, and I took out the cup, and I was trying to figure out why there was so much dough still left in the bowl. I didn't even think that I would have done anything like this. I don't know if this will work. I don't even know if this will even mix in, because it's not dry ingredients. It's kind of been formed into a ball already, but let's see what happens. All I'm going to do is just add this dough slowly and stir it in, and maybe I'll be able to actually make the dough and get it into one nice uniformed ball of dough. So that's all I'm going to do, is I'm going to see if this will work. I hope it works. So I will see you when I'm ready to actually form this into the dough and roll it out. Okay, doing that, making that other half a batch of the Crisco, sugar, and molasses has made a huge difference. It all came together. I didn't think it was going to work. So now I have to separate this into 3 balls, roughly the same size. I just got it on my glass chopping board, which is just sliding all over my counter. I just wanted something to pour it out on. That wasn't, my other mat is plastic. I didn't know if the hot sugar would do anything to the mat. I'm just going to get these into 3 even balls. My dough has kind of got this really interesting marbleized effect. Just going to make my gingerbread house sound like kind of more unique. Yeah, see, it's after school, there's kids walking past our gate. Sorry. When I pause, I will shut the door, so, and oh, actually my kids are coming in the door, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I got my 3 balls of dough ready. And it says you're supposed to roll it out already on your cookie sheet, so I'm just going to set these aside. and I have these things I'd like to try. I've never used any, well, I have used these type of product before, but I don't know where they went. It was quite a few years ago. This one here, yeah, it's this one. I have never used these ones. This one says it's a reusable oven protector. So you're supposed to put it on the bottom of your oven so any spills and stuff are easily cleaned up. But it does say, depending on if you have gas or electric and whether or not your bottom element is visible, depends on where you place it. So because my element is not visible, it's underneath the metal, I have to put this on my lowest baking rack. So I'm not going to use that today because I've got to clean out my oven and I'm going to need all my oven racks to do the cookies. So I'm just going to set that one aside. But I do have these three. Like this one, like I said, these two I got at Superstore. They were about $7 each. So this is the reusable roasting baking sheet. I don't know the sizes. I'd have to read the box to see the size. So this, the oven liner says it's 16¼ inches by 23 inches. And this reusable baking one says it's 15 by 19 inches. And it does say they are cut, you can cut them to size. I'm not going to cut them to size. And then I got this pack here, which is the copper oven liners. And this was a 2-pack. I got this one at the dollar store. I think it was either $3.50 or $4. So actually a really good deal compared to $7 for one or maybe $4 for two. So I'm going to test this and see how I like them. I'll probably buy a few more because I do a lot of baking. I kind of like the idea of being able to like roll the cookies out, cut them out, and then not having to place each one individually on your sheet, or just when you're baking and stuff, just to kind of have a nicer, cleaner surface. And these ones are, what are the sizes? Okay. It says it's 19.7 by 15.7 inches each. So I'll be opening these and near the camera. So I'll be opening these and laying them out, and then I'll be rolling out my cookie dough. Okay, so I've got my baking sheets out of the packaging. So I got this one here, and it's actually like it was like a pretty good plasticky one. And then I got these two that are from the dollar store, and again, they seem like pretty good. I know the one I used, the one I had that I can't find was the silicone baking mat. I really like that. So what I'm going to do is I was reading the instructions, and there doesn't seem to be any instructions as to which side is up and which side is down. Both sides kind of look the same to me. And then so for this one, I'll just go that way. This one here, I couldn't tell any difference. So I've got one going one way, one going the other way, and that way I can kind of figure out, because there is a slight difference in the sheen of the two baking sheets. So that's why I figured if I put one side up and the other one the other side up, and I'll do bake the cookies in at the same time, I'll know which way is better. I'm just going to set these ones aside. I'm going to just work with this one. This one's a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to grab my dough here, and I'm just going to roll this out, and it says to roll it out so it's ungreased cookie sheet. And then there's certain, you gotta roll the 3 balls, and then depending on which one you're working with, depends on which of the cookie cutters you have to punch out for each thing. So I'm just gonna roll this out. It says what thickness to roll it out to. It says, just gotta find that again. Roll it out into a roll. Each dough ball into a rectangle about 1/4 inch thick. There. Okay, just gonna roll this out. When I roll the dough, I know some people go from end to end. I like to just go from the middle down and then across this way. I like to work with half the dough until I get to kind of the edge, just easier. And then I just roll, or just flip the sheet over like that, and then roll from the middle towards me. I just find it's easier for me to roll towards me than away from me. But, you know, just kind of roll up the dough however it's easiest for you. Sometimes just staying in the center and just doing a quick back and forth motion just kind of gets a good idea to the right thickness that you want. And of course, if you don't have a rolling pin, you can use just about anything that's round to roll with. I know I have over the years didn't have a rolling pin. I used a water glass, or I know one time I couldn't find my rolling pin. I used one of my kids' baby bottles. Just something round that you can use to just kind of press the dough. So this is ball number 1. I just gotta read which the cookie cutter shapes have to use in this one. So dough number 1. Okay, so I gotta cut 2 front and backs. So that is this one. No, it's the roof. This is the front and back. So I gotta cut 2 of these out. So you just kind of push it into the dough, and I just kind of shake it back and forth. Just gonna make sure I've actually cut all the way through to the bottom of down. I'm just going to move. Just going to move this bit of dough out of my way to make sure I've gotten all the way down. There's one, and the second one. Don't want my rolling pin to fall on the floor. And the second one. So the first ball you roll out and you cut out, for this one it's the front and back. When I do the second ball, I will cut out the ends, so that'll be the triangle part, and the final ball I will cut out the chimney and the roof pieces. Did I not? Oh, there's the chimney and the roof pieces. So just have to make sure I get the right number of pieces cut out of each. Now for this, it also says at this time you go and you cut out where the windows are going to be, but you leave the window in place while it's baking, and then after it's baked you recut it out. So that I've never done before. Maybe that's why my windows are never, you know, perfect. I always try to figure out why other people can get, you know, nice looking square windows and mine always just kind of just don't hold up their shape. Just didn't cut all the way through. So that's all I'm going to do is just finish rolling out and cutting out the other shapes, and when I get that done I will be right back. Okay, so I've got all my my cookie pieces all cut out. I've got the 2 side pieces. I've got the 2 other end pieces with the window, so it's the rounded window, and the other side pieces with the door has the square window. So if I said for the windows, you cut them out. This one I put back in. So you cut it out and you leave the piece in until you've baked, and then you recut out. Didn't happen when I moved it. Okay, just gotta fix this. Just kind of got a little squished when I moved it. This one just got a little crooked when I had to move them. I had to move them around so they would fit on the cookie sheet, so they kind of slid. So there's to fix that. So I got those 2 end pieces. I got the 2 roof pieces and the 4 chimney pieces. My oven just beeped, so they're ready to go in. I forgot to mention that we're baking these at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for 13 to 15 minutes. So I'm about to put these in, and I'll be back when I bring them out. All right, it was about 16 minutes it took for them to bake. So now I've got them all out. I'm just gonna lift these up off the cookie sheets here, and I'm gonna put them on my cooling racks to cool. Here. What these really look like to me is they actually don't look really much like cookies. They look more like a bread, the way they've kind of puffed out. Now, I have to let these cool completely before I start to do anything with them. So I'm just going to keep these all in the right order so I know which is tray 1, tray 2, and tray 3. Now this is tray 3. I'm going to put this down here. This was tray 2. And then the last one was tray 1. Use this to get those out. So I'll do that now. Just see. Oops. I'm going to move it back to the pan so we've got a solid surface. Just recut that out. Gives you a really nice window. Cut this one out. And then I got just drop that. This one I can kind of just see the way that one was. I didn't really have to use the cutter to cut it out. Same with this one. I think I might just grab the knife and just pop it out. There. There is the pieces for my gingerbread house. And now I have to let these pieces cool. I think it says like 4 hours or something. I think overnight is best. I'm gonna just let these dry and harden out, and I will be back when they are dry and I'm ready to ice. All right, welcome back. I've made the gingerbread. I took it out of the oven. I've let it cool completely overnight. So I'm just going to just move my camera down so you can see what I'm doing. So here is the pieces. Now I'm going to say I don't know what happened. I don't know if you can see, but I rolled it out to that 1/4 inch thickness, but in some places it almost doubled in size. They get really puffed up, but where the spot that was flat on the cookie sheet has a nice flat surface. So I'm going to use the flat surface for the outside and the puffy stuff on the inside. Don't know what happened. See, all the pieces did that, but where it was sitting on the cookie sheet, I've got a nice flat surface. And see, here's the pieces. I'm supposed to cut 4 of these chimney pieces to glue together to make a good size chimney. It looks like I don't need to worry about that. I think I've got one of these. I think is probably thick enough to use as the chimney. So I'm just going to read out the ingredients that you need to make the icing. To build this gingerbread house together, it says you will need to make 4 batches. Each icing will make about 1/2 cup, so you will require 2 cups of icing. So you need 1 large egg white, 1 2/3 cups of sifted 10 times confectioner's sugar. So you really have to make sure you sift your sugar, and 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Now I just got to run and grab the eggs because I didn't realize that it took eggs. I knew most icing, it's, you know, water, milk, icing sugar. So just have to pause for a second while I go and get the eggs. Okay, I've got everything ready for to make the icing. Now first step is, eggs separated, but first step is to take the icing sugar and we have to sift it 10 times. So I've got my little hand sifter here. Just 1 second. Okay, so anyways, we have to do the icing sugar first. We have to sift it. So we need is, just put this over top of here. So we need 1 2/3 cups of icing sugar. So I've got my bag of icing sugar here. Out of my way for a second. So I've got 1 cup. And then we need another 2/3. And it says this has to be sifted 10 times. So I'm just going to start sifting it. This is going to take a few minutes, but it says to sift it 10 times. I don't know what that's going to do for make it a stiffer icing. So I'm just going to continue sifting. So when I have it all sifted, then I will be right back. Right, I'm just finishing sifting for the 10th and final time. It looks like the same to me as it did the first time I sifted. So I don't really know what the purpose of sifting it 10 times is for. My sifter's a little bit broken, so it's sticking. So I do find if I just kind of bang here, then the handle mechanism here kind of pops back into place. Because otherwise I'd be touching the bottom for this. I guess it's like a spring or something in here. So I don't want to get my fingers caught, so I'm just banging this side if you're just wondering. I'll have to get another sifter. That one is, it's had it a long time, it's rusted, it needs some work. Okay, so while I've got the sifted icing sugar, I'm just going to put aside. I do have to separate the egg. I've got icing sugar everywhere. I'll clean that up in a few moments. But so I've got this little thing, this little neat little gadget here. Just put it over top of a copper dish, and it will help you separate your eggs really fast. I have another tool, but I couldn't seem to find it tonight. And the other one, what I do is you put the egg in and you press a button in and it cracks it for you, and then it has a thing that catches the egg yolk, or the egg, the egg yolk if you want it separated. So the shell's in there. I'm just going to put, so I've got the egg, and I did what I didn't want to do, and that was I got some of this in here, so I got to scoop this out. This might affect, yeah, that's just going to affect my recipe. It's just too much of that got in there, so I'm just going to set that aside. I'm just going to redo it. Okay, I think because I shook it, icing sugar in there. I think it's because I shook it a little bit too much. So just do it quickly, just pour it in, and then you just quickly lift it up and dump it into the other, and it got too much of that stuff came with it. Okay, there. Now I've got my eggs separated, so it says I'm supposed to put the egg in the mixer. I said I've never made this before. Beat your egg white with in a small mixer bowl with the electric mixer until foamy. So I'm just gonna put this in here. Just mix it until it gets Foamy. Doesn't really say what setting. I'm just going to increase just a little faster and just wait for it to do what it has to do. I just got to stop because I've now got egg on my counter. So I'll be right back. Okay, so it's starting to get foamy now. I'm just going to turn this down just a little. A little bit of spilled icing sugar doesn't bother me. Spilt raw egg, I have to stop and clean it up right away. Okay, so I'm supposed to this add the icing sugar that's been sifted 10 times and half a teaspoon of cream of tartar. So I'm going to add the cream of tartar first. And it says you add this slowly, so I'm just going to slowly add in you just have to slowly beat this together and continue beating until smooth and stiff peaks forms. So it's going to take a few minutes to get to that point. Just going to scrape this down. I'm supposed to make this recipe 4 times. Got a piece of string caught to me. Okay. Just gotta keep mixing until it's got stiff peaks. Lift it. Nope, still runny, so not quite there yet. I'm just gonna scrape the sides of the bowl down once more, but it's starting to get thicker. So I'm gonna continue with this batch until it's got stiff peaks, and then I will be back. I will also be doing the other batches because it says, I don't know, wanted to make this batch 4 separate times. I don't know if I actually want to sift the flour, sift the flour 10 times 4 batches. That's 40 times. I don't know if my hands would be able to do that. So I think I'm just going to make a double batch of icing. So I'll be back when I got this batch done and I've got a double batch done. And then I'll probably still have to make one more single batch. So I'll be back when I've got all the icing made so you can see what it looks like. Alright, so I got my second batch of icing almost finished. It's almost got the stiff peak, so I got my first batch ready. I'm just going to move the camera down a little more. There. Okay, so I've got my little cake stand here. I think I got this from Dollarama a couple of years ago. It's okay construction. I mean, it is Betty Crocker, but I did have a better one. I'm not sure where it is. It's actually metal. I like the way that one works better. And I did have a couple plastic ones, different sizes, so this one's an okay size. But I was going to make a base for my gingerbread house to sit on. So I just grabbed a empty pop can box from the garage. I'm just going to cut it down. Now I'm not going to need this full box, I just got to kind of judge about how big I will need. So I'm just going to grab 2 of my gingerbread pieces. Got to go on the other side of the kitchen here. I just need the two sides. So I've got the front piece and the side piece. Just need to know how wide it's going to be and how long it's going to be. So it says wide as one of these sections here. So if I do two sections, there, yeah, okay. Set that back on the cooling racks. So I'm just going to make a quick little display thing. I don't know what you call this. It's a plate. Now you can buy them at the already made in the store. They're like silver or gold color, or a couple bucks. But you know, if you have a piece of cardboard and some tin foil, you probably have in your house, then you might as well just make it yourself. I'm just gonna flip it over because I want it to kind of be. This is not the cake tray I'm going to use, but the one I'm going to use I think is about the same size. So I'm just gonna draw around. My plate that I'm going to put this on is round. So I'm just going to kind of cut around here. So I get this kind of like an odd oval shape. I'm just going to grab my tin foil here and I'm just going to cover it. Lay it down. Wrap it with the shiny side up. Place it here. I'm just going to kind of gives me a nice surface to work with. Now I can just put this on here so I can make my gingerbread house. So move this stuff out of my way. And just gonna grab the icing because now we have to do the first thing. We have to put down a heavy icing base where the one end front and back piece will stand. So I'm going to start with this piece here. I'm going to stand it here, so I got to put a big blob of icing down. So I just need a different spoon to do that. And while I'm over here, I'm also just going to grab the other end pieces that we have to work with. So I've got them all cookie sheet in front of me. Just put some icing down. And I'm just going to stand it up. And then I'm just going to turn it around. And I'm just going to grab another big blob of the icing and I'm going to put it right where the next side is going to go. If it will let me. Like this. It's hard to hold. Just gotta get my instructions. Gotta flip the page over. Okay. Just have to still line up a little bit better. It's just gonna take me a minute to get these pieces together. Some more icing down here. And I just gotta wait a couple minutes for the icing to harden a little bit better, a little bit more. I guess I'm just gonna be holding this for a few minutes, so I'll be back when I've got these two pieces, in place and standing up by themselves. Alright, so I had them standing by themselves until I reached across past it. Just going to spin it around this way. So you can see I've already put down the icing on the next two spots. I'm hoping that might help hold this one, the top one, I don't know, the one side piece that has the roof peak on it is the one that just does not want to stay. It just wants the tips over. I'm just trying to. Okay, it's staying now. So now I'm going to put on the next pieces, hoping that if I put the next pieces on, it will help hold them all together. And the last one goes here. And okay. Thought I had it, and then all want to fall over. I'm just gonna try to hold these all steady. Now they're all falling, except that one piece is staying. So set that down. So I gotta bring this piece over. I gotta straighten this one out, and stand this one back up. Now I've got all four wall pieces together, or kind of. So now I'm just gonna do what I had done with this one here. I'm just gonna lay this. That piece is actually holding that one up. So, okay. So, got this one in place. Got this one in place. Okay. I'm just gonna grab some of the icing and just on the inside joints, just kind of spread it up and put them together. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to get this to stand. So I've got two pieces standing on their own. They were. So it is this piece here that just wants to fall, and when it falls it's tipping the other two pieces over, but other than that I've got them starting to stand. So I will be back when I have all four pieces actually standing, because I kind of need to think I may have to get some extra hands to help me do this, so I'll be back when I've got all 4 pieces in place. Okay, I've got all 4 sides standing. I'm actually scared to move it in case it falls, so here goes. I'm gonna set that aside till the icing hardens more. Now the next part is the roof pieces. This was an interesting tip. So it says to put the roof parts together, you need roof part A and roof part B. And you put a coat of the icing sugar on the back of both the pieces. And then it says you place a tan paper over top. Now I wasn't quite sure what tan paper meant. So I kind of did a quick Google search the other night on tan paper, and it looks like it might be like butcher paper or baker's paper or parchment paper. So I'm going to use the parchment paper. So I just need a piece that's smaller than the roof pieces. So I'm just going to put the roof pieces. So we're on the other counter. Okay. I'm going to grab the 2 roof pieces, and I need, so I got to figure out how big a piece of parchment paper I need. I'm going to lay the 2 pieces down. This is going to be a really interesting house. It's not very symmetrical. So, but I've never made a gingerbread house from scratch before. I've never made this type of icing before. So I just thought this would be really fun to try, something new. So, I guess you put the roof pieces down first and then the parchment paper on top. So I'm just gonna give it a good coat of icing. Maybe we'll just use the spatula for this. So I guess when you put this, is supposed to make it so it's easier for the roof pieces, because now they're going to be stuck together so they won't slide. I guess that's the purpose of this, because I've never seen this anywhere before either. It's just part of this recipe. Like I said, I don't know what happened with this recipe. I don't know why the cookies puffed up. When they were puffing up in the oven, the first thing I thought of was those biscuits I haven't made in a long time. Baking powder biscuits or hot water biscuits or whatever they're called, where they made with a lot of baking powder and they puff up. So we will see how this will work. I know it's supposed to be smaller than the roof pieces, so I will trim it to size after the icing hardens. So I'm not quite sure how long it's going to take for this icing to set up with the roof. Just making sure the pieces are right together. There. So I'm just going to let this icing on this harden. I'm going to let the icing on the other 4 pieces harden. And then I guess I will be back to assemble it all when all the icing has hardened completely. Okay, I'm at a really bad angle in my kitchen right now, but I just worried that if I move this house again, it's gonna fall off. I don't know if it's quite ready to put the roof on, but my icing is hardening up in this bowl while I'm waiting. So I'm just going to attempt to put the roof on. So I've already put down a coat of icing. I'm just going to see if it's going to work. It seems to be on. There's one chunk of this roof piece here that kind of broke when I scooped it off the cookie sheet. I don't know, I did something. It had a little crack, little line in there, and I didn't notice it. So when I just took it off the pan, it kind of broke it a little. So I'm just hoping that a little bit of the icing kind of holds it in place. So far, the roof is on and it's all staying. So now I guess I get to do the final bit of the icing here on the top, and then let's just see it all hardened on me while I was doing the other stuff. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to put this up here. I'm going to see if I can just kind of get these two roof pieces to kind of come back together, but I'm kind of scared because they're actually sitting where they're supposed to be. They're just not together on the top part of the roof. So I'm actually surprised that my house is standing. And this is the first time I've made a gingerbread house like this from scratch, like complete beginning to end. I do have another recipe I do make for my gingerbread, but not for the house. I usually just make gingerbread cookies, you know, gingerbread men, Santa Claus, things like that. This is the first time I've done a gingerbread house. I have to say, the way my house is sitting is pretty much how my houses sit when I make them from the pre-made kits. The only difference is they look a little nicer and they fall apart. So they still fall apart. So there's my first attempt of making a gingerbread house from scratch. I'm just gonna clean up. I'm gonna let this sit overnight just to completely let it just sit here and do whatever it has to do. I'm gonna fix a few places. I'm not gonna cut. I've got some more of the parchment paper I would like to trim off, but I'm gonna leave that until probably tomorrow. So I will be back and tomorrow to decorate this. So let me put my hands here so I can touch the camera and just angle it up. And again, I just want to say I just can't believe that I actually hit 1,000 subscribers on Sunday morning. Today is Tuesday evening. I was not expecting that. It's just, and I have like no words to say how thankful I am to everybody who's watching and subscribing. And if you're watching, please subscribe. I know lots of people are just watching my crafts, and I do actually have an idea to start in January a second YouTube channel. So I want to keep this channel just baking and crafts, and I have a second channel that I want to do, which I'm keeping kind of like a secret for the moment, but I've got a second channel in the works that it will complement this one, but it's not just gonna be baking and crafting. It's gonna be the other stuff I like to do. So I guess I should say to everybody, thank you for watching and subscribing, and I will see you in my next videos.